the YouTube just because. Oh, I have. Yeah, right. I have no idea. It doesn't say that we're going live. I have no idea if we're live or not. But if we are, hello everyone. Let's see here. I'm just trying to find out if how awful I am. Oh, yep, we are live. Okay. And welcome to Coffee, Kegs, and Kriegsspiel. How does the IKS lose the Kriegsspiel Cup? I am your host, Marshall, and today we're going to be talking about why the IKS lost the Kriegsspiel Cup, because we know for a fact it wasn't me, you know. I don't know if the audio's coming through on the YouTube, but we will see. Anybody? Check the YouTube. We're having all kinds of issues today, and part of the issue is we have two events running live right now on the podcast. So let's just check here and see. I don't hear sound on the YouTube though, but that could just be a setting that I have going on. So if you can hear us on the YouTube, just say hi.
Hello.
Right? No, we need to check the YouTube.
Yeah, I'm doing that right
Testing. All right. While Lake does that, we're going to get going here. We have here, let's see, we've got the window here that shows the map, although it's got the little icons on it. But this here is our map for the game, and we are joined by our esteemed opponents. So let's click out of this. I don't know how to click out of it, but whatever. All right. So we've got Miles over here. Hello, Miles. How are you doing?
Hello.
You are you are our esteemed adversary of Little Wars TV fame. Did you command the Little Wars team?
I did not. We were commanded by a much more competent player, Ed.
Oh boy! Now Ed's not here today. As I understand, he is enjoying a comfy day at the beach.
He is indeed a well-deserved day at the beach.
Working on his tan, I'm sure. All right. Yeah. We also have here Chris. Chris, you were part of the Little Wars TV team. Now, you are one of the people I did not interact with very much, but that's because I'm a very famous celebrity, so I stay aloof from everyone. But, you know, Chris, you're a member of Little Wars. Can you just give us a little hello and tell us a little about your experience here in Little Wars? Whatever you want to share.
So hi, my name's Chris Grau. I go by Feldgrau online. History determined my last name is similar to a famous military color, so it was just destiny. I guess I'm kind of a member of Little Wars. I guess I've been in enough videos at this point. And last year I was invited to the first IKS and then brought back. So. And also, you have, between me and Miles, because the Little Wars French army was kind of split up during the battle, you've got both sides of the battle, while I know the IKS team is more centrally located.
Nice, very nice. Yeah, we had the advantage of interior lines, which is what makes our loss all the more suspicious. It certainly could not have been me, so... we're going to talk about it. We also have Sean down here. Sean, can you say hello?
Yeah, absolutely. I was an assistant umpire, helping James out with the umpire side of things.
It certainly could not have. There we go. Okay, and I just confirmed that we do have the audio working on YouTube, which is good, so I'm happy. All right. And then we have, down here we have Lake, who does not have a camera, so he has a handsome, dashing avatar. I will say, having met Lake, that the avatar looks better anyway. No, I'm kidding. No, Lake's actually a handsome, fine gentleman. And it was really fantastic to meet you in person for the first time at this event. But Lake, say hello and share whatever you want to share about yourself.
Hello, I was pleased to meet all of you. I've been a member of the IKS almost since the beginning. I joined about a month after it formed and been active essentially nonstop ever since. So
wonderful.
Yeah.
And we have Achilles with the awesome man cave on full display. He's got this amazing hex and counter game going on behind him. And Achilles was my travel companion, and he was also one of our most critical players. He was our cavalry commander during the event. Achilles, say hello.
Whoa.
You are a longtime member of the IKS, and you know a thing or two about guys on horses, don't you?
No, I don't know anything about guys on horses.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, I think you read a book about cavalry tactics somewhere, but I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know.
I think it was an FM.
All right, so we are looking at our screen here. I'm actually streaming the Discord to YouTube because I don't know how to live stream very well, but here we are. We have Gus there in the picture with Miles. Hello, Gus. Cute pup. All right, so let's talk about the scenario. And because we have Sean here, Sean, can you tell us a little bit about the scenario and how this sort of played out? And by the way, let me give you guys some permissions here. Promote, yes, and we'll promote Lake here. I think Lake is going to draw for us. Sean, do you want to talk about the scenario for us, please?
Yeah, so I wasn't obviously in charge of the main scenario, but Ari wants to say she's painting.
Nice.
But
What color is she using?
blue, of course. The French, the winning side. But essentially, the game was an operational game initially, and the entry point to the battlefield was determined off of a much bigger map. And essentially, the French split their force into one portion, which was commanded by Miles, which was coming down from the northern part of the map. And then the remainder, their main force, was coming out from the west. So with those two prongs, they were able to basically push back towards Amstetten. And
Yeah, you might need to be the one drawing because I don't know exactly where. I only have rough ideas.
yeah, so Miles was much further. Yeah, it's coming down.
That's okay.
To the right of that, right?
Yeah, I think we're
The
close
general
enough.
idea is they're coming down from the north, and then the other force was basically coming along the Amstetten Road. And you're starting pretty far back, so it's more like where that forest is. That's where they were starting from. This is like the full map. So when they split their force, Miles went more to the north. And I guess the backstory of all of the scouting operations done were that I think the Russian force had a pretty good idea that the French had split. I don't know if that's true or not, Marshall, but
Not at the start. Not at the start.
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it was our
So I had the
scouting.
impression that they understood that there was
Yeah.
two forces.
We had a supply column out here that we had to recover. So this is where it starts to get interesting because we actually had a number of different objectives that we had to fulfill all at one time. We had to scout the enemy. We had to screen the enemy from viewing us and scouting our defenses. And we had to save a column of supplies that were, for whatever reason, pretty far forward and without any kind of cover or escort. So to do all of that, we called upon our friend Achilles here, who, like I said, has read a book about horses or something and knows something about cavalry tactics. And he actually planned what I think is one of the most brilliant and masterful cavalry campaigns I've seen in a Kriegsspiel yet. So I'm going to let him talk about what he did, and we can kind of draw it out on the map as we go. All right. Where's Mr. Achilles? Is he there? Oh, he's out. He dropped.
I don't know. Hold on.
He's been having internet issues today. There he is.
All right.
There he is.
Oh, what?
Right?
What are you doing for?
You know, this just would not be a Coffee, Kegs, and Kriegsspiel if it wasn't for all of the comedy of errors. All right, here we are. All right, let's go back to our tabletop screen. Mr. Achilles, you executed one of the most brilliant cavalry campaigns I have ever seen in an IKS game. You were given, as the joke goes, 5 things to do with 3 elements in 2 turns. And you actually pulled everything off. I think my orders to you were to rescue the supply column, scout the enemy, screen them from viewing us, and then, of course, to support and protect our flanks and everything else. So we gave you a laundry list of orders, and you actually accomplished everything. How on earth did you do it?
I cheated. Oh no!
You're not supposed to tell him that, bro. Oh man! All right, podcast is over now. Go ahead.
So, given the laundry list, as you already pointed out, I had to pull off all of that, and I only had 3 cavalry elements, and I was also informed that the enemy was going to be of greater force than I was. So I expected that he would have more cavalry available than I did. And basically, looking at that situation, it kind of dictated itself in a way, because there's only one way for me to pull off the second mission, which was scouting them, which means finding their infantry, because that's where their main force is going to be. You got to find the infantry. That's the center of gravity. The only way I was going to be able to pull that off was to get through his cavalry screen. And that meant that at some point I was going to have to defeat some part of his cavalry. So leaving from, and we were leaving from Amstetten, and the supply wagons were up at Ode, OED on the map, which is actually
Right.
closer to where we understood their starting point to be than it is to where I started. So I actually had to get to the supply first, even though I was further away, and then pull off the rest of it. So before leaving Amstetten, I did a lot of study on the map and kind of calculated where I was likely to meet them, given the march pace I was going to set. And I chose a location there just east of Ode on that main road to Amstetten, to attempt that was where I was going to fight. And that was where I intended to try to break through his cavalry screen. So so we start out, we go down the road. The first turn, we went at a regular pace. Second turn, I sent one of my light cavalry at an accelerated pace to make sure that they got to the location I intended them to get to in time. The rest of them I left on the regular pace because I didn't want to wear them at this point. And that first unit, the key thing there was the orders that I gave them, because these are 30-minute turns. So given that you don't have a lot of tactical control in a 30-minute turn, so you kind of have to anticipate. So their orders were to get towards Ode, and if they saw any French unit, they were to not engage. They were immediately turn around and pull back to this hill to the east of Ode on that main road, and and then sit there. So that is precisely what they did. When they got to Ode, they spotted a single French cavalry unit. The supply wagons were of course moving on their own down the road, so they were passing that unit, passing my unit down the main road. So now my unit is between the French cavalry unit and our supply wagons. So they continue on down the road. Meanwhile, the other 2 elements I they get to the area on the next turn, and I parked them behind the high ground so that they can't be seen. And now I'm setting an ambush. So I've given specific orders for the light cav that's on the hill to maintain its position until somebody starts coming at them. And as soon as somebody starts coming at them, they're to turn, pull off the hill, and the other two elements will come up the hill and strike the unit that's chasing them. And then, of course, the unit that pulls off the hill will turn around and then join them. At that point, the French cavalry did not come at me. I got a report from my lights on the hill that there were now 4 French cavalry units there. One went northeast, one went south, and that left the other 2 just east of Ode. So now I'm figuring, okay, I've got probably a 2-on-3, but I'm hopeful that he doesn't know what I've got. All he knows is that there's 1 light cavalry unit on that hill, and I'm waiting for him to come at him. And this was a kind of a nail biter moment for me, because I'm thinking those 2 that split off, either one of them could have tried to loop around and come up on me. So I had to make a decision. Do I stay? Do I hold on? And I decided, I'm not breaking the ambush early, a lesson I learned painfully at Fort Irwin one time. So I stayed on the hill, and sure enough, the next turn he came. He brought 2 up, and we pulled off the ambush, but there was a horse battery that he brought up that I was unaware of. He brought up that as well, and they were very close. So at that point, I ordered my units, since I had basically broken the 2 French units that had come up. I ordered 2 of mine to go after that horse battery. On the next turn resolution, unfortunately, he had limbered up the horse battery and was getting them out of there, and he sent in a 3rd cavalry unit, which he must have pulled from one of the 2 other branches. My guess is from the south one, to come up and charge me. And we routed that one, but it allowed the horse battery to escape. Now at that point, my guys are worn. I can't continue to fight, but luckily that's when the French infantry had arrived. So I got a good look at the lead elements of the French infantry, and I could see all of their general officers. I could see Miles, I could see Murat, I could see Lan. They were all kind of gathered together down there below the hill. So seeing that part of the French infantry was taking the road that split off from Aude going to the northeast, I anticipated that at that point they were splitting their columns. One was probably going to come down that main road that I was on. The other one was going to go northeast towards Zeitern. So I withdrew my guys pretty far back down the main road, give them a chance to do a little recovery, and then split off one of my lights to go watch the Zeitern area. And it wasn't too much longer after that when that column, the French column, was spotted going through Zeitern. So we were following that column with one of my lights from that point on. At one point, they were actually following their supply train. They were right behind their baggage train. So they followed them as they went off on their northeastern tangent, and we waited for the main column, the other column coming down the main road, I should say. The trick, of course, trying to figure out which of those was their primary. The report I got from the northeastern column was 3 brigades minimum. So I didn't get any good information on the size of the column coming down the main road, but just kind of making a calculation, it seemed like that northeastern one seemed to be the stronger one at that point. And then we did another little ambush with a infantry battalion that had been sent up to me that was way too slow, and I couldn't protect them. But they pulled off another ambush on French cavalry coming down the main road. They later got wiped out though, because they couldn't get off the hill. They were just too slow to keep up with the operations.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that point on, I stayed with the head of the main column coming down the main road, or I'm sorry, the column coming down the main road, and with the tail of the one going to the northeast. And during all of that, of course, I was sending reports back to you guys in Amstead.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk to Miles and Chris here, who had a big plan, which they executed pretty brilliantly. So, Miles and Chris, what was your plan? What did you know going into this about us? What was your objective, and how did you plan to accomplish it?
First of all, the suggestion that we had a plan is the first I'm hearing of any of this.
Oh, great.
But our primary goal was to capture your main supply wagons, which is, as you just stated, started out in Ode. We didn't really have any intelligence of exactly where they were, or at least I don't remember having that intelligence.
We did not.
So really, we were moving fairly blind. Unfortunately, our cavalry commander, Greg, isn't here right now, so he was, out in front of the infantry. I was playing as General Dupas, leading the vanguard of the infantry, but Greg was our eyes, and running into all of your cavalry ambushes, Achilles. But I would have to say, at least early on, we were moving pretty blind, and on the operational level, you were doing a pretty good job of keeping us in the dark.
Yeah, our first objective was to get to Ode, not because we knew the wagons were there, but more it was a break-off point, and we were going to split our forces. I took a brigade, well, 2 brigades. I took 7 battalions and an artillery unit and 1 cav unit, and we went north. And you were actually trailing the trail brigade, Ruffin's brigade. I was out ahead of them as we were going around. We did make an assumption at the beginning of the game that the forces were roughly similar in size, just because of the nature of the game and match play. And so we assumed if we have this, you've got something similar. And that, by and large, bore out. We also knew we had a brigade that would enter as reinforcements. They came along the south edge of the map, about a third of the way from the left side, along that road. We didn't know when they would come, but they arrived the day of the battle. And proved to be decisive. And since we knew we had reinforcements, we assumed you would have a similar reinforcement. And so we tried to kind of break up the information between what we know, what we assume, and what we'd like to know. And so we kind of stumbled around. And the goal was to try to figure out where you had the wagons, and then use my force to lure troops towards me, and use Chris's and the reinforcement brigade to kind of deal the main blow, and it worked out pretty well.
You don't know how well that worked.
Yeah. Well, you split your forces up, and throughout most of the operation, in fact, by the time we were on the plane to Pennsylvania, I was fairly convinced that we were probably going to win. I was pretty impressed that we had pulled off the big coup of scouting while screening. We were fairly convinced that you did not know where we were, what our strength was, or what our positions were. I was looking for an opportunity to defeat you in detail because, yes, we did have a reinforcement column coming. What we were told in our briefing, however, was that we were supposed to go on the offensive, on the counterattack, once our reinforcement column arrived in Amstetten. So our belief was that initially you outnumber us, but then this column is going to arrive, and then we're going to outnumber you. And we were using those numbers, that mathematics, to calculate kind of the strength ratio. We're like, oh, you have 12 to 15 blocks or whatever. We've got ours coming, and, when they get here, we're going to outnumber you by 1 or 2 elements. And then, of course, we can, because you're split up, we can defeat 1 element in detail. And I think we became very enamored with that column in the north. And we ended up going after that column in the north, and we had a very interesting plan to defeat you in detail, but it didn't quite work out. Lake, do you remember, were you the one who suggested we pull back in the north? Was that your plan?
Yes, that was my plan.
Yeah.
I was inspired by Hannibal at Cannae, and to pull back the northern troops, the Austrians in the north, and try and entice the French off Miles's column from the north. And then when their flank was exposed and they had followed them like towards our rear at Amstetten, our reinforcing column could hit them in the flank, and then we could just collapse around them.
But Miles didn't take the bait. What's going on with that, Miles? You didn't play your part in our script.
Well, yeah, I didn't read the script, so I apologize. I think on the day of the battle, we knew the following. We knew there were 2 Russian Jaeger battalions northwest of Amstetten, in the woods there, trailing our brigade that was part of my force. We knew the Grenzers were north of Amstetten. I could see 3 battalions and artillery, so I assumed there was another battalion there. And I think, Chris, you could see some of the cavalry, but not all. So we didn't know all of their forces, but that's what we could see.
All of our cavalry was Austrian.
Yeah. And then there's a hill that's northeast of Amstetten that's unfortunately shaped. And my goal was to move to the tip because I could see the whole plain, and my thought was I could see if you're trying to move your wagons out. And that worked well. It allowed me to see the reinforcing brigade come up, and then suddenly realized I had planned to attack, and now I'm outnumbered. And so I'm attacking in the north, but in the south, I'm just on the defensive and trying to hold on as best I can.
Yeah. Well, you're calling the south. I think we called the west here, to the west of Amstetten, right here. Yeah.
That's where Chris and Gray were. I was up in the where that yellow line is.
Yeah, you were there. So you did not fall into our plan. Now, my instinct was, and I was commander-in-chief, so I own this one, but my instinct was to bring everything into Amstetten and then send reinforcements east or west as needed to accomplish whatever the mission was. But my team said, hey, here is their flank. Here is this group in the north. If we smash them in the north, we win the battle. And at no point in any of our calculus did it register that you might also have a reinforcing column that can smash us from the west in Amstetten. At one point, though, we did see something, and it was up here, and we assumed that it was, I can't remember what we thought about it, but we kind of dismissed it. I think we assumed that we had enough force still intact here in the west to hold against it, and that the battle would be decided in the north. And so that's what we did. We sort of made that assumption, and of course it did not pay off, did it?
I believe the reason why we thought there was a force coming from here is because of at least the way we played it, which was on a physical map with terrain built out and the miniatures on the table.
Yeah.
So the map was not fully accurate, at least the one we were playing on, to the map that the umpires used, which was this one that we're seeing right now.
Right.
So I think that line here was actually this road coming down.
So
that's where we thought they were coming.
So what you're touching on a very important point here, Lake, which is that Kriegsspiel is properly played with blocks, and that we were forced to play with dolls because we're at Little Wars TV headquarters, and that was a massive liability for us. So there's the first surprise right there. That's why we lost. I think we were
called home field advantage.
Yeah, I'm telling you. You know.
I also have to call out, I think, the true villain of the Kriegsspiel, which is this impossible to read map.
Oh, Achilles.
I'm totally with you on that, Chris. You should see me trying to give my orders to my cavalry in that maneuver to contact phase, I'm trying to figure out what the hell's the name of this town, and I'm
Yeah.
having to just guess and then put on the thing spelling. I have no idea where this is.
Yeah, it's like, is this a road? Is this a marsh? Is this a mountain? Is this a forest? And I understand, it's a historical map, and this is absolutely what the commanders of the time were. But like you said, the handwriting, it's like, okay, and then we're gonna make a left at Rampelsdorf or something along those lines.
I believe sorry. Go ahead.
I think other thing that we made, and we made this call right before the battle, is we didn't realize that the way the game would be played out is we wouldn't be our characters that we were in the campaign. We would be staff officers.
Mm-hmm.
And we had split our forces under the assumption that, I would still be Udno and all that. And so he said, well, I'm going to be Udno, but I have to be sequestered from our team. And so I was in the basement getting screenshots on a phone every now and then. And I would issue my orders. But we did that because we thought that would take at least 1 or 2 cycles out of reaction time for commander and spot. Now, what we didn't anticipate is my handwriting, because of some issues, is illegible. It is the hardest code to play. Chris can attest to the fact that my handwriting, combined with the place names on the map, made my messages impossible to decipher for anyone.
We also use Austrian abbreviations as well.
Yes, and I believe Ed has just joined us.
Ed's here. Is he here?
It's Marshall Ed.
His
Hello,
image
can
is
you hear
here.
me?
Yes,
Yeah,
you
we
can.
Yes, sir.
I'm at the beach. I'm listening to the cast, and I just wanted to say that we had intelligence from Emperor Napoleon that we should be at that town by the end of the day, and we would find the wagons there.
Well, there we go.
Well,
And you were right.
Yeah,
You
you
know,
were,
Absolutely right.
The route to the north was selected simply because it looked like it would be quicker than trying to bludgeon through the center, where I thought we would die to a man. Looked like the northwest frontier.
yeah. We had a big debate about the West, where I did not want to defend close to Amstetten. I wanted to defend further to the west, and most of the team wanted to defend up close to Amstetten. And consistently, I let my team overrule my judgment. I let us defend close to Amstetten when my worst fear was that you would concentrate on one point and break right through to Amstetten, and we wouldn't be able to close that gap, which ended up happening. And my other thing was, of course, I allowed the team to persuade me to turn the column north. But the thing is, the buck does stop here. I was in command, and I did take the advice of my subordinates, and this is probably because historically, when I've commanded at a Kriegsspiel, I've been absolutely wrong on every single major point in contention. Achilles can tell you that I am legendary for being wrong. In fact, I am wrong with so much consistency that what we do this exercise, we're like, what do you think is happening? I will give my assessment of the situation, and I will give my recommendation, and then we just do the opposite, and that's increased my win rate so many times. And
We're changing Marcus' name to Cassandra.
right,
I was about to
That's
say,
George.
the one time you're right is
right. Yeah.
you're right.
Oh boy.
I think it was the right decision to concentrate in the north, because you outnumbered me slightly. I had 7 battalions and an artillery battery and 1 light cavalry. You had 8 battalions, 2 batteries, and the heavy cav. So you had a slight advantage, and had 1 or 2 turns gone a little more your way than my way, because at the end I think we ended up with 6 battalions broken or each, and both forces were exhausted. But had the dice gods just been a little kinder,
Yeah.
you would have freed up enough forces to deal with the southern force pretty easily.
Yeah.
That's
I
also
was-
the issue.
To me, that moment when the reinforcements came up was the critical decision moment in the game, and I think at that point we had two ways that we could have gone. One was to come after you, and the other was to go to send most of them to Amstead.
Yeah.
And looking back on it, we should have realized, okay, because I actually asked the question when we were doing the live game. I said, what happens if, this is open ground out here? What happens if he sees us, if he sees the reinforcements coming and he doesn't come? And at that point, the rest of the staff were all like, yeah, he's going to attack. And so I didn't press the point at the time either, and I really should have. But because you didn't come, that was the key decision on your side. And then the key decision response from us was we went after you anyway. And if we had just split off 2 battalions to watch your flank up there and sent the rest of them into Amstetten,
it would have been.
Might not have been able to break through into Amstetten. In fact, I don't think we would have.
I don't think we did. Also, when you moved up north, there was a turn where that brigade didn't do anything. It got close, and it didn't attack, and that allowed me to chew up the Grenzers and then move some troops south and kind of fight you to the stalemate.
Yeah. I think
the issue.
that part was the critical moment in my mind.
There is the issue, if you zoom in on Amstetten a little bit, that the board was, and the map was very much kind of almost cut in half, because Amstetten really slowed anything moving through there. Then there's the swamp to the south of Amstetten with the stream south of that was mostly unpassable. And then north of Amstetten was a wooded hill. So from our position in the east, on the west, we didn't know what was going on the other side of Amstetten, and I assume vice versa for you out on the east, you had little idea of what was going on the west side of Amstetten. And then moving your troops, you could move them quickly to deal with Miles, but if you had tried to move them towards us, you certainly would have gotten more reinforcements in, but I'm not sure how quickly those could have trickled in because it's kind of a choke point right there.
So I want to go back now to the 10,000-foot view. We've talked about the details here. I want to talk a little bit about the scenario itself and how it kind of was set up and our opinions of it. But I have one last question on the map here, which is the big decision, I think, was to split your forces. Why did you split into 2 forces that were so widely separated? Because my opinion was, my initial read from the very beginning was, if you just took everything you had and you formed what I call the great ball of anger, or other people maybe call it the stack of anger. And if you've ever played a game, especially a hex encounter game or whatever, you can get a big stack of units, a super stack, and you just move them in methodically, and the stack is so powerful that the enemy can't defend against it. I think if you had made just a little diversion in the north to draw off some of our units to the north, and then you hit us with the super stack, we can't stop you. Like, it is impossible for us to stop you. Why did you...
I'll take a shot at that.
Yeah, why did you split up? Go ahead.
I felt that if we went all in the north, it would simply be one enormously long column that wouldn't be able to support front and rear. That's why we went with 2 columns.
I think also we were concerned because of the terrain. We couldn't get that much to the front. And we'd be bottled up, and a battalion and a battery could, hold the pass.
It was my gamble that the north would offer a quicker route, a way around you. That's what we were trying to do, was to get around you. We didn't think we could do it in the south. We knew we couldn't do it in the center. And if we rolled everything in the center, I'm convinced we would have gone down like the first Afghan war.
What do you think, Achilles? You and I talked about this on the plane extensively, I think. We couldn't explain that gap initially. Or at least I couldn't.
Well, like what Ed said just a second ago is if you roll the clock back here and say, okay, they don't do that split, and they do come, the big ball of anger coming from the west, and I have, I'm watching them the way I am, and I'm reporting, look, they only sent like 2 battalions to the north or something, or 3 battalions to the north, or nothing else, then we know we don't have to really defend the north very much. And he's right, that terrain to the west, we could have held that with a smaller force for a long time, especially if we'd listened to you and defended a little further west from the town in that thick terrain. He's right. That would have been a nightmare for anybody trying to come in from that direction. So that part makes sense. The gap though, sending them that far out is a danger. I mean, that's dangerous. Even James.
It also wasn't deliberate. I screwed up. I didn't send a message out. There was a full turn where we just sat at the road and stared at each other.
Okay.
And then I thought, well, that might play out to our advantage because they'll think, well, what are they doing? It's just incompetence.
Very clever.
Always a plausible solution for us.
I'm going to convert that to Latin and have it on my tombstone.
That's great.
I love it.
Yeah,
I was reading through James's AARs that he allowed everybody to see from the umpire's perspective, and he even talks about the threat to the French of the fact that they've become so separated that they can be defeated in detail, and that really was a possibility. We just didn't pull it off,
Well, and had you done that, my plan was just to retreat to the northeast, fully as far as I could.
Draw us out. Yep, draw us off. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the briefing. For example, we were told to save the wagons, defend, and then when our reinforcements arrived, to counterattack. And I don't remember if the briefing said that we were going to outnumber the enemy, or if that was an assumption we made on our part. I'm inclined to think that was an assumption we made. What was your? Go ahead, Lake. No, you're fine.
I think I remember this a little bit better. In the beginning, the briefing said that when we began, we would be outnumbered, but once when our reinforcements arrived, we would outnumber the enemy. I believe that's what it said.
Yeah.
Although,
I believe so too.
Yeah. So did our briefing lie to us?
The briefing probably wasn't aware of the reinforcements that they had coming up.
And should we got a little bit of all right. In a tournament,
Yeah, you got some background noise. Can you mute?
Where it was, I just put it right there.
well,
You're having a great time at the beach.
that's great.
I'm sorry. What was that?
Yeah, Ed, mute. You got a lot of background noise.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. All right, so in a tournament scenario, first of all, I want to compliment James. I think he did a brilliant job. He put together a game that was required a lot of preparation, a lot of work, a Herculean level of work, genius level skill, impeccable integrity with everything that he does. I mean, he's from the IKS. He's IKS royalty, and yet, of course, he ruled for the other team. So, he is absolutely fair and unbiased in every respect. So, mad respects to him. But I think he faced some challenges. First of all, if you're by yourself umpiring, although he ended up having a couple of assistants, how do you run a game efficiently in physical space? This is a problem that I've had to deal with myself. When you have 12 guys that you've got to umpire, how do you do that? Now, I've done this for many years in Los Angeles. Achilles has seen me do it. He's done it with me down there. I don't know that James has done it very many times. James did do it once in Los Angeles for us. But that's a heck of a challenge. Sean, how did you guys handle having so many players and so many reports going on? How did you handle keep pace with us?
Just a lot of steps up and down the stairs about 50,000 times.
Yeah.
But I think that the key was we had basically 4 assistant umpires total. And there was really only 4 commands. So it was pretty much a 1-to-1 umpire ratio. And then James handled all of the kind of combat resolution. So he was rolling dice on a computer, not physical. So really all we had to do as assistants was give reports and take orders.
Nice.
So it kept it very simple for us.
Nice.
We didn't have to worry about rolling dice. The only thing I touched all day was, maybe fixing a block here and there. But we didn't have to do anything as assistants other than focus on giving good reports and getting orders accurately to James.
Good. The command staff style was something that I think threw both teams off equally, which was, I know that when we moved around the map, wherever I moved, that was what we could see. So, did you guys struggle with that, Miles, on your team? Miles, Chris?
Oh yeah, Chris and Ed can talk about it because they dealt with it more than I. I was off in the basement by myself.
Chris and Ed, go ahead. You're he's muted. Chris is muted. Yeah.
Sorry.
We prefer
This
that
was
way.
me. It was me, Ed, and Greg in the West. And due to time constraints, Greg had to leave about halfway through, so it was just me and Ed. So because I think you had a much larger group centrally concentrated, where we only had 2 people in one room, Miles in the other. Ed and I were just discussing what we'd want to do, and at a certain point, due to both the lack of information of what was going on over in the East, plus Miles's bad handwriting, at a certain point we just kind of gave up on knowing exactly what was going on over there, and we're just like, we would just wait for Miles's dispatches saying things are good or oh no, things are terrible, and try to hurry as much as we could.
The air conditioning had died, and we were simply waiting for death.
It was also hot in our room. You got the air-conditioned room. That's your consolation.
Wow.
Thank God for that. We'd have lost Marshall early into the game.
Yeah, I don't even have air conditioning in my house, but yeah.
I do have a funny story. While I was waiting for an update, the technician who came to
my weather
fix
report,
the air conditioning, came down, and I thought he was an umpire, and he was very, very confused when I kept asking him for an update. I think one thing we had that was a big advantage, this surprised me, it shouldn't because the IKS is a virtual organization, is that a lot of you met each other for the first time at this event.
Oh yeah.
And Ed, Ed, Greg, Chris, and I, we've known each other for years, and I think that helps with communications because I can look at Ed and say, "Oh, he's really pissed off at me because he's strangling me," and so I can see that subtle visual cue. And I think that gave us a slight advantage. That I think we communicated probably a little better, just because we were more familiar with one another.
I think that's true. Marshall and I actually talked about that a little bit too after the game. That the familiarity that you guys have with each other, at least not just in communication, also in style of play. I mean, they know what they can expect you to try to do, and anticipate that sort of thing. Whereas, and I think there might be a slight advantage in the fact that Chris and Ed were just the two of them for a lot of that, because us having the larger group meant it's more by committee, and committees don't do well. Councils of war never fight.
They don't do well, especially when people don't know each other well. And they're as worried about being polite as they are being effective. And this is a social event, and that's nothing wrong with that. It's to be admired. Yeah, Ed doesn't care about my feelings anymore. He'll just tell me what to do.
I agree. Go ahead.
I disagree that it played that much of an effect because although yes, this was the first time a lot of us were meeting like physically for the first time, we'd still known each other for years. So, while I do agree that you being the older of the groups, not age wise, but like the group's been around longer than ours, that yes, you would understand and be able to communicate more effectively amongst yourselves than us as the IKS. Um, I don't think it played that much of a role because you still need to communicate through voice and inflection and try and understand each other that way. So we still had an idea of like what each of us were going to do and what we're going to suggest, but I would disagree at least how much it played a role.
I do have to agree though, and I think it was either Marshall or Achilles who mentioned the, command through, war council, and Marshall has mentioned repeatedly that he was the commander in chief, but he was also taking a lot of advice, some of which she's saying didn't end up turning out so great. Whereas it was just Ed and me, and then Miles. I could tell you at the last year in the first Kriegsspiel Cup when we did the Peninsular campaign in the American Civil War, an alternate version of it. It was the very first Kriegsspiel I'd ever done. And with few exceptions, we all were just off commanding on our own, and everyone was with at least a turn or two dispatch away. So any orders I made were just my own with the information that I had. Whereas I've done a few other Kriegsspiel since, and whenever I'm in large groups, I find the consensus building can be quite difficult. Ed, were you talking?
No, but I would say that I agree with Miles, and you know, I don't know how big an effect it had, but I'm the archetypical go along, get along. I probably do better alone. Oh, I did want to share one thing. The reinforcing column, that was my decision to send them so far south. And the reason I did that was because I was pretty sure that my orders said that they would come into play only if I had failed. So I thought when the column arrived, I was going to be relieved. So I sent them the longest possible route to the battlefield.
Oh man.
Well, when they arrived, you were relieved. So
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that way. Right.
In a different sense. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
They
I
weren't
mean,
the
that's what
literal
the orders
cavalry.
said.
Oh man. That's brilliant, sir. That's absolutely brilliant.
Well, I mean, you can fight a battle every day of your life, but the pension's a once and done,
There you go. There you go. So what's really cool about this conversation and the reflection that I've done afterwards, because a little bit of backstory here is when the result was announced, I was crushed. I was absolutely crushed. I was so confident of our victory until the very last turn of the game. I was absolutely heartbroken, and I think in the recordings that were made, you'll probably see it. It was probably evident that I was just, again, in tears. And so I had a human moment. And I like to tell people you're allowed to be human because you're allowed to have a human reaction to things that happen. If you hit your thumb with the hammer and you say a curse word, well, that's normal. That's okay. You just don't want to bleed on everybody, and you want to get over it, which I've done. But I also realized that I was having a human moment and that there was more to it than meets the eye. My instinct, because I'm human, was, well, let's blame the umpire or the scenario or something went wrong. It must have been the team. It must have been, the air quality or American Airlines or aliens or something. It must have been anything but me, right? But first of all, with respect to the scenario and the umpire, there's no such thing as an impeccable scenario or umpire. They're all human. We're all human. And this is why the Prussians have said that the umpire is a dictator. And why would they give the umpire such sweeping authority? It's because even in the Prussian army, umpires made mistakes. They were human. And you have to get past that. In actual war, there are black swans. There are things that are beyond your knowledge and beyond your control that happen. I sum this up all the time. I like to tell people the enemy has a say. You have a plan, but the enemy has a say in your plans. And so I think that everything that was done absolutely brilliantly. It captured the essence, the confusion, and the frustration of command and warfare, which is why I love Kriegsspiel. And the other reason I love Kriegsspiel is I get to take all of these experiences, all of these feelings that I had, and I get to study these things and learn new things about myself. And so I learned a little bit about myself. I gained more appreciation for the art of umpiring and the work that James did. And in the end, because I gained that insight and that understanding, I kind of won. Although the trophy's in the wrong room. Did anybody else have any understandings or insights that they wanted to share from this that they felt were particularly compelling? Or is it just me?
I would like to say that in Marshall's defense, he was completely exhausted, was operating on 0 hours sleep, had arrived at the moment the game is starting and got thrown into it. And I'm surprised he was able to stay on his feet for the entire thing, which was pretty impressive, to be honest with you. And our confidence going into the game was so great that there are currently people in Central America sporting an IKS Kriegsspiel Cup champion cap right now that we had to sell off because they were all pre-ordered.
Well, so much for that.
It's a tax write-off. You get some value back.
That's
yeah. I think we all like to win.
Mm-hmm.
We all put a lot of intellectual effort into these games, especially when it's something James does, and he puts so much effort. You out of respect for him, you put effort into that. And when you put effort, you invest time. You want an outcome. I certainly didn't detect any sour grapes from you or the rest of the team, and I had no clue we were doing as well as we were doing. In fact, I thought we were on the bad end, and so I found you guys to be very gracious opponents. And it was a privilege to host you and finally meet you in person. And Marshall, just rest assured that your tears provided the greatest polish ever for that.
It does shine pretty nice.
For a non-metallic,
It's near metal.
After that, but I think it's good. It's good.
Marshall's tears are the best polish for near metallic trophies.
There you go.
That's epic. That is absolutely epic. Well, thank you, Mr. Miles. Lake, what did you gain from all this? It was cool meeting you for the first time, by the way.
I came into this just thinking we had already won. And I'll explain that in my own way. It's like I was not there to win. I was there to just have a good time and to put a good foot forward for our community, the IKS, because Little Wars TV is, in my eyes, the biggest channel in historical wargaming. It's where the community is centralizing itself around, and what better place to show off our organization than beside the biggest people in it. So, got to be a good ambassador for the community and just show that it's what we are all about. And what we're all about is just having a good time playing this great game of the past. So,
well, there we have it, folks. That's the truth. That's why we lost. Lake was not there to win. He was focused on being a good human being, and that's why we lost. Scapegoat
Found our
found.
scapegoat.
No, okay. Now going into the game itself, what I would have done. There are a lot of things I would have done differently. I blame myself. Like you said, Marshall's like you want to find scapegoats and all that. But I blame myself for at least our positioning in the live game, because I was the one that suggested let's defend around Amstead. I was the one who said that we should defend around it and in it. Looking at the map now and seeing how things were, I probably would have defended a bit farther forward. Probably around, if I could get color, probably defended around this line here, with just guns here, just firing into the woods once they came out. But that's besides the point. That's just details. But it's like there's a lot of things I would have done differently in the game. I definitely think we made a lot of the wrong decisions in hindsight. But it's like I said, it's all about having fun and just having a good time with these games. And so that's why I think we won. Is just I got to meet a lot of great people. I got to meet a lot of important figures, at least not in my life, but just people that I look up to, like Miles and Ed and Greg and all the people of Little Wars. And I got to meet a lot of my friends that I work with, like Marshall and Achilles and Zeke and John, James and all those others. But yeah, it's I digress. I love meeting you all, and I've loved having a good time.
Thank you, Lake. Thank you. You're awesome. Thank you. All right, let's get some final thoughts here. Ed, did you learn anything from this experience at all?
Yeah, I shouldn't allow myself to be suckered into being a CNC. I'm terrible at it.
You and me both,
That's
brother.
not what Miles tells us.
I was looking to cover the spread and, trying to embarrass myself. And what the hell, it's beat yard work.
Now he's looking at those weeds longingly. I need to mow the lawn.
It was a lot of fun, though. In all honesty, win or lose, that is an awful lot of fun.
Absolutely. All right, Chris, how did you find the experience? What'd you think?
Definitely my first in-person Kriegsspiel. I'll echo what everybody else said. A lot of fun, and really just emphasize just how much the fog of war really affects everything you do. It's just so hard to know what's going on, even less than a mile away from you. And that colored every choice we made, and that's one of the big differences between Kriegsspiel and miniatures games. Even if we were playing with miniatures on a table, it was a Kriegsspiel. There was fog of war. There was communication delays, and that makes it a truly unique kind of game compared to the miniatures games that we're used to.
Would you say better? No, it's okay. It's okay.
would
You
say
don't. You don't have to answer that. You know.
I'm a painter, and the little wooden blocks are just a little plain for my taste.
All right.
Yes, they are.
Achilles, and then we'll close out with Sean here. Achilles, did you learn anything from this experience? Like fly first class for sure, regardless of who you're traveling with.
Well, yeah, that was the first thing I learned. Yes, definitely. Next time, take the train. Yeah, I want to piggyback on something that Chris just said. The fact that you can't know, you can have something happening just a mile away and you don't know it's there. It kind of dovetails into one of our guys, umpire Lafondios, Paul. He's doing a bunch of shorts and everything, and he just put one out on Koniggratz because he was visiting the battlefield, and he was looking down from a position onto this small little village that was the Austrian headquarters during the battle, and the Prussians had broken through and taken the high ground just above that village, but the CIC of the Austrians was completely unaware that the Prussians were there. And you could see from he's showing it in the shot how close that village is. It's right there. And yet he was completely unaware that the Prussians were there on that high ground. In fact, he was so unaware of it that when some of his guys came back and told him, hey, the Prussians are over there, he didn't believe them. So he took his staff and rode up there to see what was going on, and lost about half his staff because the Prussians shot them down off their horses. It came as such a shock to him. That's how pervasive fog of war can actually be. You don't even know what's happening next to you sometimes. You know, and I think that what Kriegsspiel does best is it introduces that. I mean, I've seen now over the last month and a half, 2 months, more Little Wars TV than I ever thought I would.
Sorry.
Because I was studying my opponents. Prior to that, I'd only seen about 3 of their videos, but I noticed that in your channel that you have on many occasions tried to add some elements of Fog of War as best you can, and they're fascinating mechanics that you've used to do that. And there are a lot of board games that try to do it as well, but there is, I mean, you can't get the purity that you get out of a pure Kriegsspiel from the same thing. Kriegsspiel does that better than anything, better than any other system. But I wouldn't say that it's something I necessarily learned, but it's something that was certainly reinforced. The one thing that I will say that I did learn was you cannot take what Miles says at face value, because he tells you, oh, I don't know anything, I'm not any good. He is going to be Miles the Fox in my lexicon from now on. He is one of the slyest, most dangerous opponents I've seen on the field. And Ed is definitely my favorite in your entire group. He's my favorite. So, you know, I will not hear a word against him. So those
He's
are
our favorite.
If I could jump in with a very brief story, Miles is so duplicitous, and we all know this at this point. That first of all, he always sets up these elaborate code systems so that messages can be authenticated with a password system. So Ed and I received a message about 2/3 of the way through the battle, claiming to be from Miles, but first of all, it was legible, so clearly he didn't write it. Second of all, there was no code on it. We're like, oh, the IKS is taking a book out of Miles's playbook, and they're sending us false reports. Well, no, Miles had just dictated a verbal report to one of the assistant umpires, and they had brought it to us, but we were convinced that you were messing with us somehow. But because we're just so used to Miles playing
brilliant.
tricks that we're like, it finally rubbed off on somebody else.
I mean, at least
I
he
felt
didn't dress
bad
as a
we shot
courier
that
and try and
guy.
shoot one of us. I don't know who was an idiot that would think of that. I tried to do that once in the game.
All right.
Oh yeah, you're not the only one who's devious.
Well, Sean, last but not least, what were some observations, insights, learning experiences, whatever you want to share or add to all of this? Because, again, you were at the Empire table, so you have some of the most precious and unique insights of any of us here. What do you have to share?
Well, I think my point of view was limited to the room which I was umpiring a little bit, but I really enjoyed just seeing everyone really have to think quick. Something we haven't mentioned is the turns were actually very quick. It was like 10 minutes per turn, and it was almost real time.
Yeah, it was.
We covered about the same amount of real time as in-game time. So that's not easy to do, especially when you're kind of limited on how many umpires you have. So the fact that we were able to do basically real time that was one of the original goals of Prussian Kriegsspiel, was that they were doing 2-minute real-time turns. No, we were doing 10-minute real-time, but still, it's quite a feat to be able to pull that off in person for the first time that umpire team had worked together. So that is a challenge. But I think the most important thing I walked away from was kind of ideas of if you were to scale this up. So like if you're going to a convention scale, let's say you rented out an elementary school or something, and you could have people in every little room and run to them with a bunch of umpires, you would really need an umpire per room. And I think that's something that is abundantly clear when you start doing it in person, because the amount of extra time it takes to, really explain something accurately in person when you aren't physically moving the pieces necessarily, definitely adds to the delay in getting a clear picture to them. So I think the idea that combining kind of what we did here and a larger version of it would be, you would have to keep the turns moving, and the reports might not come in a timely fashion. And I think that would be the kind of the next level, is being able to have the reports get out of sync almost intentionally, but the game still moves. So you get a report, but you have to pay attention to when that report was from. So I think that would be a really interesting next level to it, but it was still an amazing experience. It was great to see. I had gone to Gettysburg a couple of days before, so I was already thinking about the limited information of just being behind a slope. You really can't see anything on the other side of it. So there's so many places in Gettysburg where you are just behind a little slope and you can't see anything. So I think in Kriegsspiel especially, it's the one place where you can really simulate that kind of thing, versus in a hex encounter or in a miniatures game, you don't always get that the dramatic effect that the terrain really has on a battle, or the fact that there's a swamp to the south of town, for example, completely dissuaded the original plans of the French, which were to go south of town. So all those little terrain things that happen in Kriegsspiel that are hard to replicate in miniatures or hex encounter are really just, that's what makes it special. And combining that with the communication, it's like no other game. So I truly think that if you have a chance to play in-person Kriegsspiel, or even just a live game on the weekend with us, or we're covering almost every day of the week now with weekly evening live games at least in the East Coast time zone. Definitely take advantage of those live experiences, because it puts you under that time pressure, and you have to think on your feet and communicate quickly and concisely and briefly. And there's nothing else that compares to it, unless you are literally in the army doing staff exercises.
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to thank you all for everything. I want to thank James, who couldn't make it today, but I want to thank him for umpiring and running the event. I want to thank Little Wars TV for hosting the event and allowing us to enjoy their clubhouse and all of their finely textured blocks, also known as dolls or miniatures, whatever you guys call them. It was fun to be there and to play on their maps, and it was a great privilege and an honor. And we want to thank you all for that. And of course, I want to thank the entire IKS team and those of you who came on the show today. I want to thank the IKS in general, all of you who've supported us either financially or morally or materially, whatever you've done to support this organization and the work that we do. Again, these experiences, just as Sean detailed, are going to be converted into better gaming experiences for all of you. And at the end of the day, that's what the IKS is about. We want to take Kriegsspiel and Kriegsspiel mechanics and use it to infuse the wargaming world with better, newer ways to wargame. So that's the goal. And I want to thank you all for being here. And we will see you on our next adventure. Thanks.